Exclamation, everybody, and welcome to a rather weird first impressions video. Not the typical first impression video, but we are sitting here and doing a tabletop game for a change. And boy, howdy, has it been a technical challenge to get this to work. Thankfully, it looks like from the preview here that you can at least read, or at least attempt to read, all the things on the table there. So that's, believe it or not, a large step in the right direction. Today, it came to my attention a couple weeks ago that there was such a thing as a single player tabletop game, which I did not know was a thing. And actually, there's quite a few that are geared, at least in their rules, towards a single player um, play. So I may look at a few things coming up here, but we'll see how this rolls out now that I've gotten the basic technical hurdle down. But today, my friends, we are playing Deep Space D-6. It is designed by Tony Go. It is by Tau Leader Games. And this one is definitely the type of thing that I would enjoy right off the bat, because it's if you were to take the video game FTL and try to make a tabletop game out of it, you'd probably come up with something similar to this. It's got various spaceships that you have to put your crew on, and you have various perils along the way towards a final boss encounter. We'll be getting into the rules of it and stuff in a bit here, but I also wanted to point out that I have, in addition to this, there is an expansion called The Endless, and it's kind of sort of an expand alone, except you do need the base game for it, but you need a base game mostly for the dice and the ships and whatnot. The expansion has its own set of cards. You play them separate from the main game, and it's also got it also introduces like an upgrade mechanic where you have tokens and stuff that you can use to upgrade your ships with. So if you guys enjoy or like this, what you've seen here, I'd be up to attempting to play through the Endless at some point as well, or even continuing to play the base game beyond just this video. But having said that, let's figure out what we have to do here as far as the base game is concerned. Now, like I said, there are various ships that you can crew. I have chosen the Halcyon here, mostly because it is listed as the one that beginners and newbies should really play. And it is structured in such a way that it gives you a lot of opportunities to, keep yourself afloat. And I've managed to get to final boss a couple times now. Still have not actually defeated it, but it's a credit to the balance of the ship that I can make it that far. There are several others that you can play as well. There's a drone ship called the AG-8 here. See, it's got different drone sections. Got only 2 sensor things. Got less shields than the other one, but more armor, you can see, and various other interesting command sections here. On the back of all these, it tells you kind of how to play the ship and what to look out for and all that stuff. Don't worry about the numbers here. They don't really mean much. It's just a way of kind of classifying the ship versus all the other ships that you can play. Another one here that comes in the box, if I can unfold it. The Athena Mark II. See, this actually looks probably the closest to something you would see in FTL, perhaps. And it's got multiple tactical stations for multiple guns and whatnot. A little bit better shields, but worse armor and that kind of thing. And then we've got this crazy looking thing, the Mono Aware or Monano Aware, or however you pronounce it. And obviously it's a flying saucer of a type. But it's also got this interesting, these dice rolls here, which I have no idea how any of that works. I'm sure it probably tells me somewhere here on the gameplay notes, but I haven't looked at it yet. I've decided to just kind of focus on this one ship here. Put these aside since we're not using those today. There are various difficulty modes you can play the game in. By default, there are 6 of these "Don't Panic" cards. If you take 3 of them out, like I have done, you play a medium. That's like medium difficulty. Leaving them all in is easy difficulty. Taking 3 out is medium difficulty. And if you take 5 of the 6 out, it's hard difficulty, where you just leave one of those in there. I've taken 3 of them out just to show you that I've done that. And the idea here is, you can see there is your hull on the one side and the shields in green. I will set those tokens up in a moment. But you have a bunch of crew. In this case, we have 6 crew dice here. And each of these crew, as you can see, has different symbols on the dice, which represent what department they are. If I were to say, where's this? Here we go. There's an engineer, you have science, you have tactical, you have medical, you have command, and then you've got sensors. The sensors are, whenever you roll one of those, they get locked in onto the board. If you hit 3 of them, you get an additional threat that's sent your way this particular turn and whatnot. And then we have a threat die. The 6-sided threat die here determines which threats actually kick off for a particular turn. You'll see when we start putting threats on the board, they all, or most of them, have some sort of dice roll associated with them. We've got 2 decks. We've got the threat deck, which has about 45 cards in it, I believe. And then we have the end boss, the Ouroboros deck. Now, the way you can play the game, you can shuffle those 2 decks together, and then as you pull out Ouroboros cards, you set them aside until you get all 6, and then you put all 6 on the board, and then you've got a boss battle going in addition to everything else. Or you can do what I'm going to do, which is play through all of the threat deck first, and then play the Ouroboros at the very end of the turn, or at the very end of the game. So either way is valid by the rules in the book. Over here, you can see we have our returned card here. The top portion is just to kind of track our crew members as we return them, or we don't use them. You don't have to use every crew member every turn. You'll see early on I probably won't use every crew member. Then we have the infirmary underneath of it. Crew will get sent to the infirmary. They will get, based on actions of cards, and they will get locked in there until you use a medical officer to cure them and heal them. Then they go into the return section. Now this card is double-sided, so you can actually do it without the special text that I have. But I've decided to do the special side of the card, which allows me to make sure that's straight for you guys. Which allows me to spend any crew member I want. I can throw them in the infirmary. There's the English I'm looking for. I can throw a crew member into the infirmary and use that then to change the department of another crew, of another dice. So I can change the face of another dice. That helps us out tremendously as you know, depending on what your roles have done. Also, in addition to that, this particular ship, I can use a commander here to also change a crew, change one of the other dice here to a different department if I want to. And you'll see me use that a lot. Both of those things I'll probably use a lot. We got commander station here. We've got our tactical station. You can put multiple tactical people here and get additional +2 for each one you've put on there. So it's 1 and then 3 and then 5, blah, blah, blah. We've got science department here where you can either recharge your shields if you use a science officer, or you can use a stasis beam, which means you can put your science officer on one of the threats, and that will prevent that threat from actually kicking off this turn. We got the medical division there, which obviously I can either get everybody out of the infirmary, or I can use it to take one person off the sensors. And then we've got engineering to repair the hull. You put 1 on there, it's 1 plus 1 to the hull, plus 2 for each additional engineer you assign. So the threats that I'm talking about, as we pull threat cards off the deck here, they'll go onto the threat meter. These are basically hit points here. So 4, 3, 2, and 1. The card will say how many hit points the threat has. Some threats don't have any hit points. We'll just put them anywhere. But most do have some kind of level on here. As I use my tactical officers to shoot at a threat, the threat will go down the list here, and then eventually come off the bottom and get discarded. The way threats are processed in the game, when you roll the threat dice, you go from top to left. So it's top down, left to right. So we go this way and then down. So that's how the threats are handled. That's the external threats. Internal threats will go on the other side of the board. Those will then get handled after the external threats. And you'll see what some of those are. Some of them are threats. Some of them are away missions. It has the concept of that. There's not too many. There's only like 2 or 3 away missions that you can do. But we'll see that as we go through the game here. All right, so I think I've explained the basics. Let me set up my tokens here on 8 hull and 4 shields. Start out with full power there. I'll put my threat dice to the side for right now, and we can start to get ready for a new game. So first of all, before I roll any of the crew dice, I have to take 2 threats and put them on the board. So first one is an internal threat. It's called Time Warp, and all threats recover 1 health if we roll a 2. In order to get rid of Time Warp, I have to spend 2 science officers. So that's what those symbols mean there. Good, you can actually read them for a change. That's great. And then the next threat off the deck is an assault cruiser, which is 4 hit points, and it does -2 hull. Now, most of the cards will say -2 hull, but really you take the shields first and then the hull. Unless it says ignore shields, then you just do straight hull. So that's how this is going to work. There's also another card later on called a scout card that doesn't have any dice rolls, but whenever you take hull damage, it adds 1 hull damage to it. The way I'm playing it, it's kind of ambiguous the way it's set up, but the way I'll play it is, and this is kind of house rules things, it'll do whatever damage the last thing does. So if it did shield damage, it'll do 1 shield damage. If it does hull damage, it'll do 1 hull damage, whatever. It's a little bit harder that way, but it will keep people from yelling at me if I take the easy route, the easy route from it. All right, so we've got the board set up. We're ready to go. Let's go and roll our crew dice here, all 6 of them, and get this game started, shall we? Okay, we've got 2 engineers, 2 medicals, a tactical, and the sensors. The sensors immediately go first. Sensors immediately go first. They get locked in immediately. So that's that one. I can't use that crew member now until either we get 3 there or I use a medical officer to return them, which in this case I'll probably do that. We have 2 engineers. Don't really do any good for me. So what I'm going to do is I am going to spend one of them. I'm going to throw 1 in the infirmary, and I'm going to change this guy to tactical. All right, and then we're going to have 2 tactical officers here. 1 and then 2. I'm going to use this medical officer to return my sensors officer. And then the other medical officer will just go unused. You don't have to use every dice that you've got. So that is where we're going to sit with that. So now that we've assigned our crew, we have to actually execute the orders of it. So first thing is we got 2 tactical officers. So it's 1 point of damage for the 1 tactical officer, and then +2 for each additional. That's 3 points of damage that we can do. And we're going to do that to the assault cruiser. So this goes down to 1 hit point here. That going. All right. And then we have resolved all of our crew actions. The next thing we got to do is take another threat. and it's a bounty ship. And it's 4 hit points, and it is on a 2 or a 3 of the roll of the threat die. This will destroy all the shields and do -1 hull. A very rough ship to have, but good to have it. It's good to have this threat early because we've got all our shields and all our hull right now. So that's where we stand. Now it comes time to roll the threat die and see what if any of these actually activate or multiples activate, as can be the case. All right, we rolled a 3 here, and it doesn't look like anything activates on a 3, so we get off scot-free. That, and so we're good. We're good there. So now I should be able to collect my crew up, the ones that aren't in the infirmary. So we're down to 5 crew now, and we'll roll these for the next turn. Start turn 2 here. Okay, so we've got two tacticals again, which is good. That will do lots of damage downrange. That idea, and got a science officer. So I'm going to actually use the science officer on. I'm going to do the stasis beam. I'm going to put a stasis beam on this bounty ship so it won't activate this turn. We've got a commander. Good. We're going to use him to change this guy's department to medical, and I'm going to use him to get my guy out of the infirmary. There's that. So we're good. And now we have to do the 3 damage here. So you're allowed to distribute the damage amongst multiple things. So we're going to get rid of the assault cruiser, number 1. And then we're going to do 3 points of damage to the bounty ship. 1, 2, 3. So it goes down to oh, I'm sorry. Wait, that's 3 points. This is 2 here. Sorry, I was like, wait, I didn't do the math there, right? So because this was 1 point to take the 1 off, and then 2 for the additional. So 2 points of health left on the bounty ship. And did I? Okay, so now we've cleared all that. So now we got to get another threat on the board, and it's a flagship. Does -3 hull if we roll a 4, a 5, or a 6. So, and then remember, this one's still in stasis, so it doesn't matter what I roll that would be on that card, it won't activate. So let's go and see what we got here. We got a 4, means the flagship activates. That's -3 hull. That goes right to the shields, so our shields go down to 1. Bounty ship doesn't activate. The time warp does not activate. That's on a 2. So we're good so far there. And now I can be able to collect all my crew again. So we got all 6 of our crew members back. Now we can try and take care of these threats and getting all the big threats early here. This is a bit interesting, I'd say. All right, and okay, so we've got immediately we have to lock in our sensor guy there. I've got 2 tacticals, 2 medical, and a engineer. So let's get the two tacticals are definitely useful. Them assigned. I'm going to throw the engineer into the infirmary. I'm going to change this guy to a science here. I'm going to use the stasis beam to prevent the flagship from activating this turn. Now, technically, I could possibly use the medical guy to take the guy out of the infirmary that I just put in there, but I'm going to just invoke a house rule that says I can't do that this turn. Instead, I'm going to use this guy to get my sensor guy back for next turn. Right, and now we got to do the 3 damage that we can do here. So this is 2 damage to this guy. He goes off the board, and 1 damage to the flagship. Now we pull another threat card. It's an internal threat, invaders. If I roll a 2 or a 4, it will send a unit, any unit, to the infirmary. And that takes 2 tactical officers to get rid of that. So that will stay there until we actually do something about it. Now, with these internal threats, you are allowed to lock crew members into it. So if I only had 1 tactical officer that I rolled, I could lock 1 on there and just keep it there and just don't use them until I get the next one to unlock it and get rid of that. So that is allowed as part of the rules. And I believe we now have to roll the threat die and see what comes up here. A 6 we got, which would have triggered the flagship, but luckily I've got that in stasis and nothing else. So that was a good move on my part there. All right, so now we can collect 5 of our crew members because we have 1 in the infirmary. And roll and see what we get here. Okay, we've got a couple medicals, a couple science, and a commander. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these 2 science officers to get rid of time warp here. I rolled 2 of them, I might as well. So that will be done this time around. I'll use the commander to change one of these medical personnel to a tactical officer, do 1 point of damage. And then I'll use my medical officer to retrieve my guy from the infirmary. So that do it. So we'll do 1 point of damage to the flagship, move him down to 2 health. And then everything. So we'll pull another threat off the deck. It's a fighter, got 1 hit point, and does -1 hull on a roll of 2 or 4. Now let's get this threat die rolled and see what we get here. We rolled a 3. It does not appear that anything activates on a 3 from where I'm sitting here, although I am sitting sideways to everything. But it looks like we're good. So say that's a successful round for us. We got all of our crew back here. We've taken care of the time warp, so I can take that off the board. And I back as well. Moving everything around. I apologize. Things got to be like the way the table is set up here. There's like a curve right here, so everything is sort of curved for me, on an angle for me, just so that it looks straight for you guys. So, yeah. Okay. So I resolved that turn, so now we can start to roll our crew die again. And hopefully I'm not skipping steps. I have this problem where this is one of the reasons why I don't play too many tabletop games, is that I tend to forget rules as I go along. You would think repetition would mean that I would remember the rules, but no, it's never quite the way that it works, for the way my brain works. So I may I may accidentally skip a step here and there. I apologize if I do. Here is our guy locked in. Oh, we got 2 tactical, which is good, and we've got 2 science and 1 medical. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to use our medical to this guy out of there. I'm going to use the tactical the way they are designed. I'm going to throw this guy in the infirmary, and I'm going to make this guy a tactical guy. I'm going to lock him in on invaders. And then we got to do 3 points of damage here. 2, 3, both of these go off the board. Excellent. Okay. And now we everything there. So now we got to pull a threat. Oh, don't panic. Nothing happened. So there's our difficulty level ticking in. So immediately discard that. So I still have to roll because we have the invaders there, which might activate. Not that it will do anything because it's just adds 1 health to anything that's any external threats on the board, but there aren't any, so we rolled a 1 anyway, so it wouldn't have activated. So there you go. Okay, so we're cool there. So down to just 4 crew members now that are active. See if we can get some of our crew back and back to their stations and back to their posts. Oops, oh, this guy fell over here, but he was a science officer. Hold 3 science and 1 commander. That's fancy. That is fancy stuff right there. All right, we're going to use the commander. We're going to turn this guy into tactical so we get rid of the invaders thing. I will use this guy to recharge our shields to 4. And the other guy will just be unused for this turn. So there we go. Okay, let's draw a threat card. All right, this is an internal. This is a away mission, rescue telepath. If I spend a medical officer, I can discard this. I can keep this card and then discard it to show the next 5 cards on the threat deck. This is one of those cards where I never actually use it because it's not really that big a deal to me. I was debating whether or not to remove that card from the deck or not, since I don't really use it, but I left it in there just for the sake of argument. But that is what we have there, so that's what we've drawn. We still don't really have any. We don't have any threats right now, so there's really no point in me rolling because there's nothing that could actually happen. So we're good. Let's go collect all of our crew members up. We've got 5 of them back now. I can take this off the board. Excellent. Go. Alrighty then. So let's roll and see what to do. This turn's going to be kind of a throwaway turn because there's not going to be much to do here. We don't really have anything important. So, and I got a bunch of engineers and a tactical person. So I'm just going to use my commander, and I'm going to turn this guy into a medical person, and we'll get this guy out of the infirmary. And that's about it. That's about all we need to do that turn. So I'm going to just put these guys up here and not use them. Go. We'll draw a card. Another internal threat, cloaked threats. After the threat phase, roll the threat die again. So if we roll a 2, we'll have to roll the threat die again after that. That picking things up here. But if we roll a 2, then we have to roll the threat die again afterwards. So let's do this. Let's see if we roll that or not. Not that it's going to do anything right now, but I rolled a 2. So just for the sake of argument, we'll roll again, even though there's no other real threats to worry about. And we rolled a 6 that time. So there you go. So now I got all my crew back, and we're still kind of sitting pretty right now. There are some, as I've noted here, there are some periods where, especially early on, where you'll run into, kind of boring. It'll be kind of mundane. But then at some point, you'll just the threats will start really piling up, especially when you have a lot of damage. Once you start taking some damage to the ship, the threats just start coming hot and heavy and making it very difficult to do things. So we have a scanner guy here. We lock in. We got 2 commanders, a science dude, a medical guy. I guess we'll just use the medical guy to get this guy returned. I'll use the science dude to get rid of the cloaked threats, and then that's really all we need to worry about at this point. So these other 3 crew members died there. Let's draw another threat from the threat deck. An assault cruiser. All right. That's an external threat. It's a -2 hull if we roll a 4 or a 5. So let's go see what comes out of this. And I rolled a 2, so nothing activates because we took care of cloaked threats over there. But we are good now, and we've got all of our crew still back and healthy and all those things. Let's get that threat deck over here out of the staging. Excellent. Okay. Very good. All right, so we got an assault cruiser to take on. We got something to do with our tactical officers and whatnot. We can. All right, and we've got our sensor lock-in. We've got a medical guy, so I'll just end up returning this guy. We can. We got tactical here. I'm going to throw one of my science guys in the infirmary, and I'm going to change this guy to a tactical. Doing that. Those 3 points. And then the other medical officer will just kind of, I can't really use. We do 3 points of damage. That gets us down to 1 health here. And everything else is good right now. Let's draw another threat. Space Pirates. So they have 2 health and they do -2 hull if we roll a 6 or a 3. So yeah, let's see what we get here. You can see you don't really see it right now, but as you get more threats on the board, a lot of them will share the same dice roll, and that's when things just start getting really tense because you start getting damage left, right, and center. Oh, and we rolled a 6. Means the Space Pirates activates. So that gives us -2 hull, so our shields go down to 2. And that is the only thing that activates right now. So we're still sitting pretty, relatively speaking. All right, so we're down to 5 crew. Got 1 guy in the infirmary over there. So let's roll and see what we got in store here. Ooh, we got 2 sensors locked in. And we've got medical, engineering, and tactical. So I'm going to use the medical guy to get my guy out of the infirmary. Use tactical here, obviously, and the engineer really isn't going to do me any good because he only repairs hull, and our hull is fine. So we're just going to kind of keep him by the wayside here. We'll do 1 point of damage, so we'll get rid of the assault cruiser off the board. Didn't have to damage that one. I could have damaged the Space Pirates, but it's, I figured they only have 2 health, so what's the big deal? And it's both of them do -2 hull, so comes down to what dice rolls you think you're gonna hit versus what you're not gonna hit. So we resolved the turn, so I will then grab another threat. An internal one, a robot uprising. On a 1, 2, or a 3, you send a unit to the infirmary, and it takes an engineer to undo said robot uprising. So there's that. Let us roll and see what we get going here. We get a 5, and that does not activate anything, so we get away scot-free yet again. But we've only got 4 crew members now because 2 of them are locked in the sensors. So let's see what we can do next here. Okay, we've got 2 commanders, a science, and an engineer. So the engineer we're going to quell this robot uprising with. The science we're going to use to recharge our shields. Thank you very much. And the commander we're going to use to change the other commander to a tactical officer. And we're going to do 1 point of damage to space pirates. Them down a notch. And then we pull another threat. An internal threat. Boost morale. Well, this is actually not really a threat per se, but if I roll a 6, I get to return a science, someone who's locked into science, and then discard this. So this is actually a non-threat. It's actually something you kind of want to roll, honestly. So yep, okay, we're good. We are good. Let's roll and see what we get here. We got a 2, which does not activate anything because the robot uprising is taken care of. So we are good yet again. Let's grab our crew members back, our 4 that we can still use. Let's get rid of that robot uprising. The discard pile down just for sake of argument. And we'll then we'll roll our crew. Because they go all over the place. Oh, and that was I think that was science, and I accidentally pushed it over. But we got a tactical officer. We've got we're locked in already with another crew member, which means immediately we take another threat. Orbital cannon. This is an interesting one. If I roll a 3, it does -2 hull, and it cannot be damaged unless it's the only threat, the only external threat. So I have to take care of the space pirates first before I can even damage the orbital cannon. So now that we've done this with these guys, I can put them over here to be returned. We got 2 science officers. So I am going to use one of them to keep the orbital cannon from firing. And the other one I can't use because I already used one with the stasis cannon. I think we've done our bid there. Oh, I do have to do 1 point of damage with my tactical officer, so we'll take the space pirates off the lists together. Get rid of them, so we don't have to worry about that. All right, and then we draw another threat card, and it's a boarding ship. This one does, on a 3 or a 4, does -2 hull, and it will send a tactical officer to the infirmary. So, do you have any tactical officers assigned when this goes off, they immediately go to the infirmary boarding ship. So let's see what, if anything, activates here. 3, which actually activates that boarding ship. That's the first thing to actually get activated. So we have to take our tactical officer and put him in the infirmary. Orbital cannon would have activated, except I have it in the stasis cannon or a stasis field, so that doesn't actually do anything now. And we are good. We're good here. So let's grab our crew, ones that we can grab. All them. This guy, so we're at 5 crew right now. And let's see if we can take care of some of these things on the board here. All right, we got 2 medicals, 2 command, and engineer. So get our guy out of the infirmary, and we will use the commander to change our engineer to a tactical officer. So, then I will throw a commander in the infirmary. Change this guy to a tactical officer. So do 3 points of damage. So let's resolve that. So 3 points of damage knocks this guy down to 1 here. So he goes down that way. And we're good there so far. So we do another threat card. It's a fighter. Does -1 hull on a 2 or a 4. We got a couple that do 4, a couple that do 3. So this is where it gets you, right? Like if you roll, if you get a pretty bad roll, you can really get a lot of damage downrange on you. So there's a 6, which activates our boost morale. Unfortunately, there's no one to return, but we do have to still discard this. So that goes away without actually helping us, unfortunately. And that's it so far. We're still rolling pretty good. We're just the threats are starting to pile up though now. Our 5 crew members back. 1 in the infirmary now. And let's see if we can take care of these one dudes here. All right. Well, we got another sensor guy. Knock him in immediately. We got science and medical things. All right. So medical. This guy out of the infirmary. I'm going to throw this guy into the infirmary. I can change this guy to a tactical officer. And I'm going to use the science officer to prevent the orbital cannon from being able to be fired. So we'll do 1 point of damage, so we'll get rid of the boarding ship. Do the fighter there. Only does 1 hull. And now draw. Now that we've resolved our crew members, we draw another threat. Raiders. And here's where things get interesting. They have 2 hit points, -1 hull, but it ignores shields. So this is one of those cards where you take direct hull damage, not any shield damage. And that's on a 1 or a 4. So let's see what we have to deal with here. A 6 does not activate anything. So we are good still. Making some good rolls. My rolls will get progressively worse as we go on. Trust me on that one. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 crew members now. 2 of which are locked in that we can't use. So let's hope that we can retrieve all the things and destroy all the things. All right, we got 2 commanders, a engineer, and a science officer. All right, we're going to use the commander. Change this guy to tactical. No. Use the science officer to keep that orbital cannon from firing. And we just won't use the engineer. We don't need him right now. So 1 point of damage. Let's knock the raiders down a peg here. They could hurt a little bit at some point. And then we will draw. And just draw another Raiders card. That one on a 4 or a 6. You can see both of these have 4 in common. So fun times. There's also another one with 4 there. So let's hope we don't roll a 4, huh? Let's or perhaps you are hoping that I roll a 4 just so you can see some pain instead of some ease of use here. And that is a 3. We rolled a 3, which would have activated the orbital cannon, but I have it in stasis, so we are good so far. Still doing pretty good. That guy back, get these guys back. These, all right. If I can get a bunch of tactical officers going here, and we can just kind of get rid of all these little fiddly things on the board. Oh, there we go. There's another sensor guy. We got 2 tacticals. Works out really nice. And we got a science guy. So do the same thing we did before. Keep the orbital cannon from firing. 3 points of damage. So we'll do these 2 off the board. And 1 point to the raiders. Because remember, we can't damage the orbital cannon unless it's the last thing on there. So that helps us tremendously. And we draw another threat card. One is a nebula. So immediately when nebula comes into play, your shields go offline. So we now have no shields. And on a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, the nebula will lose 1 health. So basically, you want to roll one of these, try to get the nebula off the board. Once nebula goes off the board, the shields come back online, but they go to 0. So you still have to recharge them. That's the way it's. I believe that's the way it was written in the book. So you can always correct me if I'm wrong on that regard. So we've got only 3 crew members active. So things are getting a little bit interesting here. A little bit interesting and dangerous. Now, I mean, the Raiders, if they go off, they would have ignored the shields anyway. But the orbital cannon, on the other hand, not so much. Oh, wait, did I? I didn't roll, did I? Well, see, there we go. I think I skipped the actual, put the threat on there, and I forgot to actually roll the threat die. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. This is what happens. This is what happens. My brain goes wild, and I start skipping steps here. All right, that was a 4, which activates multiple things. That activates the nebula, so that goes down 1 health. It also activates the Raiders, which does -1 hull, which actually is going to hit our hull for 7 down there, or down to 7, I should say. And that is that. So this is what happens, friends. This is what happens. You're going to be screaming at me by the end of this. Like, you skipped 5 steps. Whoops. Sorry. Sorry. I get ahead of myself here. Okay. Oh, there's our 3rd sensor guy. So we got to immediately draw a card. Space Pirates. 2 health, 3 or 6 they activate. We've got a commander and a tactical officer. So first of all, let's take these guys off the board here and put them in returned. So the commander not really do me any good. Really doesn't do me any good because I really just want the tactical officer. So we're not going to even use him. Instead, we're going to use the tactical officer. Do 1 point of damage. We'll get rid of the Raiders here. Them off the board, at least one of them off the board. And that's about all that we're going to be able to do here. So pull another threat card. And it's a Corsair. That does on a 4, 5, or 6 -2 hull. Now you can see how the game has started to ramp up its difficulty. Just kind of naturally ramping up its difficulty as we go here. So, whoop. And there's a 5. That's what I rolled. A 5, which activates the Corsair, so -2 hull. Remember, our shields are offline because of the nebula. So that does direct hull damage, so we're down to 5 there. What else? That also activates the nebula, so the nebula comes off board, which means our shields go to 0, so we can now recharge them. Quite nice. And that is it. That's all the things that activate on a 5. You can see now we're going to be like, okay, we got to spend some crew on recharging the shield, recharging the hull. This is where things start getting rather interesting, friends. Okay, so it only took us what 49 minutes to get to to get to the interesting part. It's a little bit of a slow burner. It has, but it does get really strategic a little bit later on. And of course, I'm using the easiest ship here. All the other ships have a lot more. Look like they have a lot more to them. So you got to just bear that in mind. I'm taking the easy road here. All right, so we got multiple tactical officers. We're definitely using all of them. We've got an engineer. I'm definitely using them. We've got a medical officer, so I can get this guy out of the infirmary finally. And this other one is not going to be used then because I don't have anything to use him on. So 3 points of damage. We'll take out the Space Pirates and we'll knock the Corsair down to 1 health. That. We do 1 hull repair, so we're up to 6 here. And yeah, unfortunately our shields are still down, so that's going to be problem. I kind of wish that I had a way to change him over to a science officer, but I didn't have enough crew left to do it. So we pull another threat card. It's a fighter. So getting all the fighters out of the way here. That's on a 2 and a 4. We get a -1 hull. So let's roll and see what we get here. We get a 5. That activates the Corsair again. So that's a -2 hull there. So we're down to 4 because we don't have any shields up. And that is all that activates. So we're getting a little bit desperate now. A little bit, tiny bit, but we've got fully all of our crew back. Now we can start to maybe double and triple some things up, hopefully. But we also want to keep taking on these threats as we can. Or, we can lock a bunch of them into the sensors. That happens too. There's two guys locked into sensors immediately. We did get 2 engineers. Definitely going to use both of them. I did get a science personnel. We're going to use him to charge the shields. And then the commander doesn't do me any good this turn. So let's recharge our shields to 4. It's going to help a lot. We do 3 points. It's +2 for each additional. So 3 points of hull repair. That gets us up to 1, 2, 3, up to 7 here. So we're almost repaired there. So that's good. And yeah, so we pull another threat off the deck. And it's a warbird. It's also a 1 here. So it's going to be kind of off the screen a little bit. I apologize. Let's see if I can put it down here just so you can kind of see it. Up just a little bit. And make some room here. Make room for the warbird. It does -3 hull and ignores shields. So we got to be very careful of that. That's on a 4 or a 6. So really don't want to roll a 4 or a 6 because there's a bunch of things that'll go off on 4 and there's 2 things that'll go off on 6s. So we want to be really careful with this roll. Really careful, possibly. Let's see what I can do here. And we rolled a 6. Oh, fun times. Fun times indeed. So Corsair kicks off. That's -2 hull, but we have our shields up, so that goes down. That goes to the shields. And the Warbird kicks off, but does -3 hull and ignores shields, so we have to take 3 off the hull here. 3, so we're back down to 4 again. So that is where we stand there. All right. So now to 4 crew members that we have left. Them make something good happen here, hopefully. Get some good rolls, maybe. All right, well we got 3 commanders and an engineer. The engineer is going to go here. I'm going to use 1 commander, change another one to a tactical officer. Then the other commander I can't use. I mean, there's nothing that says I couldn't put another commander there, but again, I wouldn't have any use for him because he can't change anybody else. There's no other dice to change. So we do 1 hull repair. We're up to 5 now. And we do 1 point of damage. I'm going to get rid of this warbird down here altogether because he is the most dangerous threat on the board with the -3 hull that ignores shields. And then we can move these guys back down a little bit. Fortunate that they take up so much room, but I have limited screen space here for all this stuff. And I think we've done okay, we've resolved the crew. Good. Now we've got pull another threat. Comms offline. You may not assign a commander until I use an engineer to get rid of that. That's an internal threat. That could cause us some problems as we're trying to do things here. That's always in effect, so there's no dice roll that makes that active. It's just always there. We rolled a 2. which activates the fighter, which does -1 hull, but our shields are up, so our shields go down to 1. So we're good there, and then nothing else activates, so I think we're fine. Now we can grab our crew back, crew members. We can get rid of some things here, maybe. Or not. Maybe we can just bring some more things in. Here's another sensor guy. So immediately draw another threat. The strike bomber. -1 hull and send a unit to the infirmary, any unit, infirmary on a 2 or a 4. So let's these guys off of here into returned because we got another guy who's locked into the sensors. And we got medical and tactical. So medical I'm going to use to retrieve this guy from sensors. And tactical we're going to use for tactical purposes, obviously. We're going to get rid of the Corsair. He does -2 hull, and he only had 1 hit point left. Them off the board. And that is good. At least we'll have all of our crew back, theoretically. Unless this strike bomber goes off and then I gotta send someone to the infirmary. But now we gotta go draw another threat. And it's friendly fire. It's an internal threat. Immediately send all tactical officers to the infirmary and then discard. So, yep, there we go. Goes into the infirmary, and then we discard that. That was an internal threat. Okay, then. So now we have to roll our threat die. I believe I've pulled everything out. Yeah, I pulled all this stuff out. I don't think I skipped anything. So we rolled a 3. That activates the orbital cannon, which does -2 hull, which will do actually 1 to the shields, knock the shields down, and 1 to the hull. So our hull is down to 4 now. And I think that's the only thing that activates on a 3 from what I can see. So I think we're good to go there. So we almost had all of our crew back, but we only have 5. Still good. Still better than nothing here. So let's see if we can put some boots to butts here. Okay, so I've got an engineer to take care of the comms offline, which means I can now play my commander, which will be good. Let's use this engineer here. Let's play the commander so that I can get my shields recharged. Let's make him a science officer. Charge his shields, and then I'll use this medical officer, this guy out of the infirmary. So our shields recharge to 4. Our hull goes up by 1. And we don't do any damage because I don't have any tactical guys. So we are good there. All right, let's go and draw another threat. Panel explosion, internal threat. You may not assign any engineers, and it takes a medical officer to get rid of that. I seem to be rolling lots and lots of medical officers, so that probably won't be too bad to take care of. All right, let's roll the threat die and see if anything bad happens. We got a 2. So the strike bomber kicks off first. -1 hull and send a unit to the infirmary. So our shields go down to 3. Send this commander to the infirmary. So we're not going to get all of our crew back this time again. And then this fighter kicks off, which does a -1 hull. Our shields go down to 2. And that is that there. All right, let's cover our crew. Ones that we can recover anyway. Let's get rid of that comms offline. There. Get up off the table. Guy down, grab this guy back. And let's roll and hope keep our fingers crossed here. Okay, well we got a sensor guy. Lock in. We got 2 medicals, a commander, and a science. We'll use the medical guy to get this guy out of the infirmary. Use the commander to change this medical guy to a tactical. We'll use the science guy to keep this orbital cannon from firing off. Put him on the stasis beam. So we do 1 point of damage. So let's get this strike bomber down to 1 health, if I can. And leave that takes care of all of that. So we'll pull another threat here. A Corsair. 4, 5, or 6 will do -2 hull. So let's roll and see what happens. We got a 5. So the Corsair kicks off. That does -2 hull. So our shields are down to 0. Anything else on a 5? No, doesn't look like it. Looks like that's the only one. So we're good there. All right, so retrieve our 5 crew members here. And let's see if we can lick our wounds a little bit, possibly. Okay, so we got 2 commanders, a medical officer, and a science and an engineer. We can't play the engineer because the panel explosion is still there. So actually, we could play it if I get medical officer on that one, which I probably should do because there's no other reason. I could use him to get that crew back, but I think getting rid of the panel explosion is more important. So we're going to put this guy here. Then I can assign this guy here. We use our commander, change this other commander to a tactical officer. And then we're going to use our science officer to keep this orbital cannon at bay again. Actually, you know what? Screw it. We'll use our science officer to recharge our shields. 4. So then our hull goes back up to 6. Do 1 point of damage, so we can get rid of the strike bomber off there. Thing to deal with, and we're good. So let's do another draw and another internal threat, a pandemic. We roll a 1. We have to send a unit, any unit, to the infirmary, but we can cure this pandemic with either a science or a medical officer. Is where we stand there. Let's roll the threat die. Rolled a 2, which activates the fighter, so -1 hull. So our shields go down to 3. It does not activate anything else that I can see, so got away relatively clean there. We'll get this guy off of here and get rid of that panel explosion. Down, and we'll retrieve their crew members here. Still at 5 crew, but we're working through all the crises as they come. Okay, so pretty good roll. We got an engineer to help with the hull. We've got a commander who will change one of these science officers to an engineer. Get our hull back up full. I'll use this other science officer to keep this orbital cannon from firing. I'll use the tactical officer to knock this Corsair down to 1 hit point. I guess I could have gotten rid of the pandemic, but not really that important right now. Do 3 hull repair. We're at 6, so we can only do 2, so that's up to 8. So we're back up to full health on our hull. So at least there's that going for us. And yeah, so now we just draw a threat card. Scout. This is the worst card probably in the deck. Scout does not have any dice associated with it. If you lost hull this round, lose an additional hull. And like I said, when I started the game, I do sort of house rules on this because it's kind of ambiguous the way that's worded. It's like if you have your shields up, does do 1 hull to the shields, or if something attacks you and it ignores shields, does it continue to ignore shields? So the way I've put it is, if the last thing to attack me ignored shields, then I will do one additional hull damage to the hull itself and not to the shields. If the last thing that attacked me, and I do mean the last thing that attacked me, only did shield damage, then I'll do shield damage with the scout. Or if the shields are down, then bleed over into the hull, as it were. So yeah, so that guy only activates if you actually taken damage from any source during this round. So we will roll and see if that is true or not. Rolled a 5. So that activates the Corsair, which does -2 hull, which will, we're at 3, so it's 1, 2, down to 1. This guy does an additional 1 hull, so our shields are down. So that's the way that we're playing that. That was the only thing that has a 5 on it, right? Like it. So we're good there. Done that. Now I can retrieve my 5 crew members here. See if we can get some tactical officers on these various threats going on here. We got another sensor guy locked in. We got a medical personnel and science. I'm going to take medical personnel. I'm going to take one of these, put them here, and get one of my guys off the sensors. I'm going to take the other one, and I'm going to get rid of this pandemic. I'm going to take the tactical officer, use him. I'm going to take the science officer and keep this. Actually, I'm going to recharge our shields. Full. Go. So we're back to full health, which is quite nice. We got to do the 1 point of damage. So let's get rid of the Corsair here off the board. And now we got to draw another threat card. An interceptor. These guys suck because they go off on a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. They only do 1 hull damage, but they suck because they have 3 health and just kind of pinprick you a lot. I've had cases where I've had multiple interceptors out on the board at once, and yeah, it just it's a death by 1,000 cuts scenario at that point. Rolled a 6. How about them apples? Actually, nothing kicks off on a 6. So the one roll that would not kick anything off, and we managed it. So there we go. Especially when you have an interceptor and a scout, it just like now it's like 2 points of damage for everything. It's good that it was a good roll to have. So we can get rid of this pandemic. That off the board, and we can gather up our crew here, our 5 crew members. Now let's see what Lady Luck gives us this time around. Gives us another. Just retrieve the guy from the scanner. I gotta put one back in there. Got 2 tacticals and 2 science, so we're definitely using the 2 tacticals. The science officers don't really. I mean, one of them could be used to keep the orbital cannon at bay, but I feel like I should instead sacrifice one to the infirmary and get another tactical officer going here, because then that will do +2 for every additional tactical officer, so that's 5 now. 5 damage that we can do downrange. So, and we're going to do that. So first of all, we're going to get rid of this scout. That's 3 points. And we're going to knock this interceptor down to 1 health. So he'll get down here. So that's 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So that's 2 off of him, 3 off the 1. So that's good right now. Trying to take care of these threats as we can. Gotta grab another threat off the board, and it's a strike bomber, which does -1 hull on a 2 or 4, and also sends a unit to the infirmary. Getting that scout off the board was very, very important because that just becomes a real pain in the neck later on, as it just multiplies everything, basically. Multiplies all the damage of everything going on. So nice to have that off there. So let's roll the threat die. We got a 3, which activates the orbital cannon, which does -2 hull. So that's 2. We're down to 2 on the shields. And that also activates the interceptor, which does -1. So we're down to 1 on the shields. But at least our shields are holding for now. Moment. So we're good there. We got 3 crew members. Is that all I got left? That's all I got left right now because I got that guy in the infirmary. So let's see if we can do some damage here. All right, so we got a medical officer. That's good. We're going to take him and get this guy out of the infirmary. Got a tactical officer, and we got a science officer. I'm going to use him to recharge our shields. And we're going to do 1 point of damage. We're going to get rid of this interceptor off the board. Worry about that one. And that's about all we can do right now. So another threat onto the board. And another strike bomber. We got 2 of them out there. And both of them would actually kick off with a 4, and both of them would send a unit to the infirmary. So we could very, very quickly end up with all our crew in the infirmary, which actually ends up being a losing scenario. If all your crew end up in the infirmary, you're basically toast at that point. Or if they're all locked into the sensors, you're toast because you can't do anything. So we're getting close to that scenario here. Let's hope that does not happen. That would be the first time it's happened to me, but that would be still rather tragic here. And we rolled a 1, which is a very good roll because nothing activates with a 1, it looks like. So we're good here so far. I've got 4 crew now. We can use, hopefully, some of these strike bombers and other things that are kind of been hanging around here a while. All right, we've got pretty much every department representing right now. I want to play this. I want to stop this orbital cannon from firing. Actually, stop one of these strike bombers from firing, because if I roll a 4, there's like 3 things here that'll go off on a 4. Let's stop one of the strike bombers. Let's we got our tactical guy. Let's throw our engineer dude into the infirmary, and we'll make our medical dude a tactical dude. Really do want to get rid of some of these threats here. So that it gives us 3 points of damage that we can do. So I'm going to get rid of one of these strike bombers and the fighter. Them both off the board, since they both had a 4 that you could roll that would activate them. So that reduces our potential for damage by quite a bit here. Roll a threat card. Oh, and distract it. This is an internal threat. So I immediately have to assign someone to that guy over here. And basically, this one is I can either spend 2 medical officers to retrieve that now locked in crew member, or if I roll a 4 or a 3, that will resolve that internal crisis, as it were. So let's roll and see what happens. And actually, we rolled a 4, so that actually resolves immediately now. Good. Off of there. And nothing else. The 4, it's a good thing I got rid of those strike bombers, because the 4 would have been really disastrous with all the damage coming down range. So, and then this guy doesn't activate because he's in stasis. So I made a really good move there. I had a really bad roll, and I made a really good move to prevent it from being a really bad roll, a disastrous roll. That at that note. So we only have 3 crew members, so we're going to have to I have to do something about that right now. We need to get some crew back here. Getting a little bit tight on the budget. Did I? Yes, I did, because I pulled distracted. I was like, did I pull a threat card? I did, because I got distracted there. All right, so we got medical, science, and tactical. Tactical we're definitely going to use. Medical we're going to use to get one of these guys off the sensors. Turn him. And science we'll use to keep the strike bomber, again, from activated. So that's the highest threat right now to me on the board. We also do 1 damage to it, so we can move this guy down. We can't damage the orbital cannon yet, because it's got to be the last thing you damage. That thing will hang around forever, pretty much, because we keep throwing more threats onto the board here. Unless I get a nothing happens, which is great right about now. Yeah, good there. So, draw a threat card, and oh, there we go. Don't panic. Hey, I asked for it and I got it. So, it is. I was going to say, it's been a while since I've drawn one, so we were about due for it. That allows me to get a little bit ahead of the game here. And now roll. We rolled a 6. Nothing activates on a 6, so we are good. We're good to go. These guys back, that guy back. So we're slowly recovering crew members now from all the various lock-in points. Good. You want as many crew as you possibly can get. And then just so you can lock them right back in again, of course. That's how that works. So we've got tactical here, putting him there. We've got a commander, which I'm going to use to change this guy medical. I'm going to use medical to get this guy out of the infirmary. And we're going to do 1 point of damage, so we're going to get rid of the strike bomber, because that's the only one we can damage right now. And that is everything. So another threat card. Solar Winds. This is an interesting one. So this one is an external threat, but it's a star, which means it doesn't have any hit points. It just kind of hangs around. And when I roll a 2, it will do -5 hull, and then you discard it. So for this ship, -5 hull means basically no more shields and 1 hull damage, unless I had some shield damage already previously. This guy's just going to kind of hang around here. He doesn't really fit into anything else other than eventually I will roll a 2 and that will activate, and it will be every bit a disaster as you might imagine. There's another one of those cards like that that we haven't seen yet, but it will be it will be coming down the pike. Kind of similar, but slightly different. You'll see it. I'll talk about it when we get to it. But I have rolled a 6, so we are good to go yet again. Let's gather up our crew, and hopefully we can. Now, here's the thing: the solar winds. I guess technically it's still an external threat, so it won't allow me to attack the orbital cannon. I guess technically, although I would think in the spirit of the game I would be able to attack the orbital cannon because there is no other external threats that can do anything. But I guess technically it is an external threat, so yeah, just the way that is right now. I was hoping to get rid of that orbital cannon, but it's going to stick around for a little while longer. So we've got a tactical guy. He's not going to be of any use this round. Instead, what we're going to do is take this guy. Actually, I can't even use the commander, can I? Yeah, this is an interesting turn here. So I might be able to use him, but let's just see here. Got a medical guy. I'm going to take one of these guys back with him. Which means I can use the commander, change my tactical guy to science, keep the orbital cannon from firing. And then that's about it. This other guy, I mean, I guess I could just use them to get that rescue telepath thing done. I mean, I'm never going to use it, but I might as well just get it off the board so we don't have to keep looking at it. I have no other use for that medical officer right now anyway. So, and again, the way I'm playing it is that I can only do multiples in tactical and science. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, maybe I could put him in there and get another guy off the sensors, but I'm just kind of it's not very clear in the I've looked at the rule book, so I'm just going to go with house rules and say that that's kind of makes it a little bit too easy. It's already kind of easy, so I'm just going to say that I can only do one officer there for that. And we now have to draw another threat card. Mercenary. Okay. Well, this is the opposite of the scout. This guy doesn't have any dice that he kicks off on, but if no threats have activated this round, then do -2 hull. So this one gets you coming. The one gets you coming, the other one gets you going. So this is how this works. So if I get lucky die like I've been doing, and nothing activates, then the mercenary will activate just to do me dirty, as it were. So actually, we rolled a 2, which means the mercenary doesn't activate, but the solar winds do, which does 5 hull damage. So our shields are down, and we take 1 hull damage, but we get the solar winds off there. That's 1 less card to deal with. And then put this up here. We can get this rescue telepath. So I don't have to use it right away, but I'll just keep it over here as a memento because I won't really use it for any real purposes. There's no real purpose for me to use it. I kind of know what the next 5 cards are going to be, so there's no real reason. Like I don't see any reason for it because there's nothing that I could plan for, at least in this ship anyway. Maybe other ships allow you to have something where you can plan ahead a couple turns. I don't know. This one, it's kind of you're just dealing with things as they come up. So that is where we stand there. Take all these back now, and we're back up to 5 crew. So that's a good position to be in. And let's roll them. All right, so we got tactical, definitely want him. Commander, I'm going to use the commander to change the science guy tactical because I want to get rid of this mercenary. And then I will use the engineer to repair the hull, and I will use the medical officer to retrieve this guy so we can try to get all of our guys back, get all of our crew back. So 3 points of damage here. We'll get rid of this mercenary. 1 less thing to deal with. One of these days we'll be able to get rid of the orbital cannon. Don't know when that's going to happen. But we go and get 1 hull back. Our shields are still down, but you know, tis life at the moment. And now we draw another threat card. It's an internal one. It's cosmic existentialism. You must be what does it say? I can't see it. Must be completed before assigning any other science crew. So before I can assign science crew to anything else, I must complete cosmic essentialism. So that's an internal threat there, which is good that it's an internal threat because that means that I could target this orbital cannon and finally get rid of it. It also means I won't be able to recharge shield unless I get multiple science officers. So let's see. Let's go towards that end goal. We've got 6 crew members back now. All our crew are back and ready to rock and roll. And then one's ready to go back onto the sensors again. So there's that. We got a bunch of engineers. That's something new. That is something new. All right, so we got the tactical officer. That's good. We can take out that orbital cannon. I am going to use the medical officer to get our guy off the sensors again. I'm going to sacrifice one of these engineers so I can change this guy to science. Science, so we can get rid of the cosmic existentialism, and then this other engineer is no use to us right now. So that is the way that is. We can finally get rid of this orbital cannon. Awesome. Done and over with. Thank you. And I'm going to get rid of the, well, I'll leave that there for now, but it's not going to activate anyway. And grab another threat. A shield platform. This is another one that's, luckily we got this very late in the game. This is one that's always active, regardless of your dice rolls, and this one protects all the external threats, which means you have to take out the shield platform before you can take out any other external threats. Because he doesn't require a dice roll, there's no reason for me to roll the dice because everything is taken care of. So we will skip that part here. Grab my crew members back. We'll get rid of that cosmic existentialism. And grab that guy. We got one guy in the infirmary, but that's not too shabby. We're doing really good, and we're getting very low on the threat deck. So this is probably the best position I've been in at this point in the game. So I'm feeling rather good about this. Okay, so got the guy. All right, how are we going to do this? So one of these guys I'm definitely going to use. Okay, so one of those guys I use to recharge the shields. I'm sorry about some of the cuts. It's Shutter for some reason wants to turn off every couple of minutes here. And let's see. I'll use the commander to change this guy to the tactical. And then the other science officer I can't really use. I can't really change him to anything. So we'll do 1 point of damage to the shield platform, knock that down here. We recharge our shields and all of that stuff. Okay. So draw a threat. Oh, it's an away mission, rescue soldier. If I spend a medical officer, I can then discard that card to re-roll any locked in sensor officers that got locked in this round or this turn. It's kind of a weird one. That's another one that I rarely ever use because it's rare for me to be in a position where I've gotten somebody locked in this turn and I can re-roll them. But you know, it's something to be something you can hold on to and use when it really becomes necessary to do so. That's good because that means I can focus on the shield platform now. There's nothing else that's shielding at this point, which means there's nothing really for me to roll either as far as the threat die goes. So we'll retrieve our crew that aren't locked in and keep on trucking here. All right, we got 2 engineers and a tactical officer and a commander. So using the tactical officer, we're going to use the commander, change one of these guys to a tactical officer. So we get rid of that shield platform, and this engineer is the odd man out. Can't do anything with him, so shield platform goes away. Kind of overkill on that, but it's done and out of there, so I don't have to worry about it. And all she wrote there on that. So draw another threat card. The destroyer, 2 health. On a 1 or a 3, it will do -3 hull. So certainly one thing. Certainly good that I got rid of that shield platform because this thing could have been really, combination of that and everything else would have been quite the pain. So let's roll and see if we activate anything this turn or not. Oh, we do. We activate the destroyer. We rolled a 3. It does -3 hull, so our shields are down to 1. But we're otherwise in one piece. so that's good. Oh, collect our crew up that we can. We're down to 4 crew members. I'm gonna get some medical officers as well as some tacticals here. You can see where all the kind of strategies and stuff come into play. Got a medical officer, so first of all, we're gonna pick this guy, and we're gonna get this guy out of the infirmary, for 1. For 2 is we're gonna take this guy, commander, and we're gonna make this guy make him a medical officer. I guess I should just make him a tactical, and then we can get rid of this destroyer outright. I didn't really need him. He was science, and he could have recharged his shields, but that was not really a big deal. Or I could have just, did the one thing, but I'd rather get this off the board, given that we're getting close to the end here. So that kills that destroyer, right? And we got 1 crew member back from the infirmary, which is good. So we get another threat on the board, and it's a don't panic. How about that? That came in a very good time. Really no threats to our livelihood or well-being right now. So we are doing, like I said, really nice at this phase of the game. This is the best I've done at this point that I've ever done. So we're sitting really nice, really nice right now. Okay, well, we got 1 more guy locked into sensors. We got a bunch of commanders, so we're going to take one of these commanders, and I'm going to change this guy to medical. Get one of these guys off the sensors, and I'm going to this. Should I do it? Question. I was thinking of throwing him in the infirmary and then making the other guy science and then recharging our shields, but honestly, we don't really have any threats this turn. So it might behoove me just to not use these guys at all this time around. So yeah, that sounds reasonable. Right, let's get a threat on the board. Hijackers. Okay, this is an interesting one. This is one of the few in the deck that's got multiple outcomes. So if hijackers have 4 health, they activate on a 4 or 5, and they do -2 hull. But they've also got 2 commander symbols on them, so you can actually do this as an away mission, where you can send commanders over and resolve it that way, rather than having to use your tactical officers to destroy the hijackers. So it's kind of an interesting little dichotomy there. I wish there were more cards like this that had more of a tactical feel to them, so you could kind of do some things like this. I feel like if there's one thing this game seems to lack a little bit, is a lot of these like kind of trick cards. I mean, there's a few of them in there, so you get these kind of bursts of genius, but then like there's so few and far between. You know what I mean? You still get a lot of these just straight up tactical battles and stuff. So, all right, let's roll and see if those hijackers actually activate or not. Rolled a 3, so that is a no. That is a negatory. All right, grab our crew back then. And like any other away mission, I can lock crew onto it. So if I don't have 2 commanders, I could just put 1 commander on there and just lock them in, and then wait until I roll a second one. So all good things here. All right, speaking of, we got a commander and some science officers. Medical personnel. So here's what we're going to do. Take this medical guy. We're going to retrieve this guy off the sensors. Take this medical guy and just get rid of that rescue soldier. I'm going to take my science guy, and we're going to recharge our shields. And then what? I'm going to lock this commander onto the hijackers. And this guy just won't be used for this turn. Get all of our, hopefully, unless something happens, we should get all of our crew back this turn. So that'll be good at the end of this turn. Get another threat on the board, and it's an interceptor. One of those ones that goes off on a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. -1 hull. That's the second interceptor. There's two of them, I think two of them in the deck. So luckily they were spread apart enough that they're not quite as painful as they would normally be. He says that knowing that he's probably going to take 1 hull damage here at least. So let's see what happens. Roll a 5, which actually means both of these activate, both the hijackers and the interceptor. The hijackers does -2 hull, so our shields go down to 2. Interceptor does -1, so our shields go down to 1. But that is it. That's just kind of a tap on the shoulder. And again, we only have like 1 threat card left. So this is a really good run. I have not had a run as good as this. By this point, this threat area would be full, and I'd be like just sweating bullets and stuff. We'd have crazy low hull and everything else, but we're actually doing, this is the best run I've had thus far, friends. The best run I've had. So this guy is locked in, so he stays there. So I take these crew back. I've got this rescue soldier here, so I can use that card if I want to. I can discard that whenever I want to, and I can re-roll anybody who gets locked into the sensors. This guy is in our return thing, so he comes back. We got 5 crew and a couple of high health things to deal with here. Okay, so we got some good things going here. We got 2 tacticals. Means we can do 3 damage, which is fantastic. Just exactly what we needed. We got a commander, which we're going to lock in on the hijackers and resolve that. That way, we've got this guy here, who I should have locked in first, but I didn't. Reason I didn't lock him in is because I'm going to turn in my rescue soldier, which means I can re-roll him. So we're going to put him aside for a moment. Put him on here for a moment. And then I've got a engineer who is not really going to be of any use for me this turn. So let's re-roll this guy immediately. See what crew we get. Got another engineer. Well, actually, what I could do, is I'm going to throw this guy in the infirmary, and I'm going to make this guy science. We're going to recharge our shields. So we're back up to full health there. And discard the rescue soldier. And we do 3 points of damage. This interceptor goes bye-bye. And we've put 2 commanders on the hijackers, so the hijackers will go bye-bye at the end of this turn. And get 1 more threat before we hit the boss battle. And it's the meteoroid. This is the other one that I was talking about. This guy got 4 health. And every time I roll a 1, the health of it goes down by 1. Now you might think, oh, well, why not just do 4 points of damage to it? Well, once it gets destroyed, it does -5 hull. So it behooves me to leave this guy around for as long as possible, because as soon as he activates, I get -5 hull, which means my shields are pretty much gone regardless of what number they're on, and then whatever hull damage comes out of it. I have a bad time for this because we're going to start drawing from the Ouroboros deck, but you know, it was bound to happen at some point. It was bound to happen at some point here. And I can also, I believe I can still use my stasis beam on it too, although I don't think the stasis beam works. Well, it would still work while it's on the board, so I could prevent it from, like if it was down to 1 health, I could prevent it from kicking off. So I still have that going for me. Oops, I knock cable here. So anyway, and I unfortunately have 1 officer in the infirmary, and we're going to start taking on the big bad here. So let's get the hijackers off the board. That is resolved. Thank you very much. And the meteoroid is still there in play. We've got all these guys we can gather up. We've got our 5 crew members. and we can start to roll and see what we can do. Now I could technically, if I could do it, I could technically um, damage the meteoroid right now and just take the hit right now. But let's see, because I'm kind of afraid to do that because there's going to be 6 more cards. The Ouroboros is 6 cards, so one in the sensors here. So I'm kind of iffy on that regards. This guy to get this guy out of the infirmary, and there's not much else to gonna let that meteoroid go. So we'll leave these guys. Actually, no, I can't. I did that for that, so I'm not. I can't take this guy off the sensors now because I already did one of those things. So yeah, these guys will just sit here, right there, and we will now begin to see the Ouroboros reveal itself. Oh wow, we got really lucky here. The core, the first thing to reveal itself. If I roll a 6, I have to send a unit to the infirmary. When this is destroyed, the Ouroboros is defeated. So this is why I said this is very lucky. If I destroy this core before more of it arrives, then we win the game. Like I said, there's 6 cards over there, and a lot of those cards are rather rough. In fact, there's one that's like a shield that always protects the core, so you have to take the shield down before you can take the core. And then once the shield goes down, it regenerates itself. So this was a really lucky draw, because if I can get this core knocked out as soon as possible, we will actually win a game. That will be well. I have never won the game at all, so this would be very, very cool indeed. I am getting ahead of myself here, though. Guys back. Still have to roll. Oops. Oopsie. Still got to roll because the core could activate and send the unit to the infirmary. So, but I rolled a 3, so we are still good. Let's go grab these. Have this crew back. 10. And let's see if I can. The name of the game right now is Tactical Officers, friends. That is the name of the game. Oof. Oof. Or the name of the game is Get More Ouroboros out here. Yikes. All right, well, those guys are locked in, so I immediately have to draw. I drew the worst card I could draw. The barrier, this is what I was talking about. Protects Ouroboros. It, on a 5, it will recharge. Turn to play if destroyed. This is the weird thing here. When I roll a 5, I'm not sure how this works because it's like it protects Ouroboros, but if I roll a 5, then it recharges the barrier and returns to play if destroyed. So I guess I think that's how that works. It's some of these things are kind of hard to grok a little bit, but my guess is I can destroy the barrier, but it will return to play. But I have to destroy the barrier in order to hit the core. But I imagine it will return to play the next turn. If it's down to 1 health and I roll a 5, then it recharges to 2, I guess. I guess that's how that works. It's hard to parse sometimes. So, oh boy. All right, so these guys are, at least they'll be coming back next turn anyway. And I got a science and a commander and a tactical. So commander is going to turn, or the engineer, I mean, going to turn the engineer to, actually, wonder if I do the stasis. Yeah, but see, it's still good. I still have the barrier to deal with. So what we're going to do, we're going to make this guy tactical. And this guy tactical. So that's 3 points. So we got to knock the barrier down. So I'm going to knock the barrier down here, but it's going to regen after the next turn. And then I'm going to do 1 point of damage to the core. So that's, I think, how we have to do it. I think that's how they're. It's this part is where I might be doing it wrong, and I apologize if you're screaming at your computers. But this is how I'm interpreting what that means. So so I've resolved that, which means we got to pull another Ouroboros part out here, and it's the attack matrix. While active, roll the threat dice 2 times. So as long as this guy is out there, I have to roll the threat dice twice. So that is what we're going to do, friends. Roll twice here and see what happens. So roll number 1 is a 6, which activates the core, which sends a unit to the infirmary. So we'll do there. So that's what we got with that one. And then I got to roll a second time. That rolled another 6, which sends another unit to the infirmary. Not fun. Not fun at all. Okay. If I have no crew to use, I end up losing the game. So we got to keep that in mind as we go here. All right. So that has been resolved. We're down to 4 crew, unfortunately. So let's if I can retrieve some as we go here and still do some damage. Oh, also, I got to regen the barrier, so the barrier's got to come back up here. So, fun times indeed. And we just lock somebody into sensors. That's not a good time for that. I have a commander here, which I'm going to use to I'm going to change this guy to tactical. And I'm going to use my science guy to stop this attack matrix. I don't know if I can use it against the barrier. I don't think it would matter if I used it against the barrier, honestly. But using it against attack matrix means I don't roll twice, theoretically. I guess I could use it against the core, but what's the chances I'm going to roll a bunch of 6s? I mean, who would roll back-to-back 6s? That would never happen. Anyway, I do 1 damage to the barrier, so it's down here. So it's got 1 health left. Hopefully, I don't roll a 5 and recharge it. So, and before I do that, I gotta pick another card. Hydra cannons. Oh, fun times. Times to be had here. If I roll a 1 or a 2, I get -2 hull. So yay! Yay! We're fighting the big boss here. And I rolled a 3. Does anything activate on a 3? No. Nothing activates on a 3. That is surprising. Although I'm sure I will pull another card that does, because if it's the Ouroboros and 6 cards, at some point something's going to activate at all points here. So I've done that. Now retrieve 3 crew members I have remaining that are still active. Yeesh. Gonna be really tough here, friends. Really, really tough. Okay, well, we got a medical, a commander, and an engineer. So, medical, you are going to get my guys out of the infirmary, for 1. For 2, commander, you're going to make this guy a tactical. No, that's not going to work. Because I only do 1 point of damage, which will just damage the barrier, which won't do any good. So you're going to be science. You're going to stop this attack matrix from activating. Yeah. That is about how that goes. Okay. Draw another threat card. Missile array. Awesome. 3 points of health on that one. -3 hull and ignores the shields. Great. That activates on a 4. There's very few rolls that are not going to hurt a whole lot here, friends. Very few rolls. So let's see what happens. Oh, and there's a 1. So the meteoroid loses 1 health. So it goes down to 3 here. I'm just going to kind of... It's going to be off the screen, but it's going to be... I'll just kind of like throw it over here a little bit, maybe. These over a little bit here. Like that. Whatever. Anyway, there's a meteoroid, so it loses 1 health. That doesn't do anything to me. The hydro cannons, though, do 2 hull damage. That's 1, 2 there. And that's it. The attack matrix is stunned, so I don't have to roll twice. So we're good there. My crew back here. All 5 of them, and hopefully we can make something good happen here. Maybe, possibly. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. Ooh, we got some tacticals. And we got a commander, which is even better. All right. Tactical. Tactical. Commander. Tactical here. Tactical going. 5 points down range. Then we got a engineer that I don't have a use for right now. So 5 points of damage we can do. So we're going to take the bagger down. That's 1. So now 4 points, which means we can take out the core, which has only 3 points left. Means we have, friends, won the game. We have won this game. That is the first time I have won a game. So awesome. There is still technically 1 more point of damage I can do, so we'll just we'll do it to the attack matrix just for sake of argument. But yeah, there we go. I won. Hey, how about that? How about them apples? That is a first for me. Holy crap! And that was it was not as much of a nail biter at the end as it has been. I've been down to like 1 hull for a very long time in the game, but you can see how the game plays out, and it's interesting. Probably even more interesting in the other ships than this one. This one's kind of just a bare bones, straightforward one to play. We actually only had 1 Ouroboros card left, and it was Hydra Cannons. So then that would have revealed everything that was going on. So yeah, fun times there, friends. So this has been, grab the box here. This has been Deep Space D-6 by Tau Leader Games and designed by Tony Go. And it's rather good, friends. It's rather good. There is an expansion called The Endless, which I would also like to play at some point, but you guys can let me know if you care or don't care. I know this is more of a video game channel than anything else, but you know, these are technically games, and I did not know that single-player tabletop games existed prior to this, so this has been quite the endeavor for me. I really am enjoying this. It's now that I've got the technical stuff wired out, I'm really enjoying it. Although I gotta figure out why the camera decides to turn off every half an hour, but that's another thing. And I better hurry up and say stuff before it does again. Yeah, if you want to see more of this, just let me know. You can either leave a comment below, or you can hit me up on Twitter at MemoryLeakDeath, whichever you prefer. I have 2 other games that apparently can be played single player that are tabletop games. Gloomhaven, which actually is coming out. I just noticed there's a Steam version of that coming out, so I might end up waiting on that and playing the Steam version, unless you guys really want to see the tabletop version of that. But I gotta see what the rules are like first, because if the rules are really complicated, then I probably won't end up playing it, because I as you can see, I sometimes have problems even with the simplest of rules. And I've got Mage Knight. So if you want to see either of those, let me know. I might end up doing one of them or both of them. You know, if you want to see them earlier rather than later, now's the time to speak up. And if there's other like tabletop games that also have like a single player element or have single player in the rules that you can actually play them alone, I'd like to hear about them because I did not know that these things existed prior to this. So in any event, thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.